Every time someone tries to rattle you, your instant reaction hands them exactly what they want. What if real control wasn't about hitting back, but about refusing to step into the ring at all? What if silence was your most dangerous psychological weapon? There's an invisible law governing every verbal conflict. Whoever reacts first surrenders position, not because their response lacks strength, but because showing emotion is handing over a detailed map of where you're vulnerable. Think about it. When someone needles you, challenges you, throws sharp words your way, the expectation is crystal clear. They want movement. They want to gauge your emotional temperature. They want to locate the wound. And by responding on impulse, you're essentially announcing, right here, this is where I bleed. Provocation is never about the words themselves. It's about what those words can extract from you. It's a control test disguised as an attack. And those who hold genuine power recognize this before their mouth even opens. They understand the game isn't in the language, but in the energy you waste defending yourself. Every second spent justifying, explaining, or countering is energy slipping through your fingers. It's ground. You're giving up without realizing it. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Silence isn't the absence of response. It's the most sophisticated response available. When you don't react, you create a void. And psychological voids make people deeply uncomfortable. The provocateur expects resistance, expects battle, expects confirmation. They hit their mark, but when you simply absorb and remain intact, something breaks in their script. They lose footing, lose fuel, and they start exposing themselves, filling that silence with increasingly desperate attempts. This is where real power lives, not in the ability to strike back, but in the capacity to observe provocation as if it were a distant phenomenon, almost curious, like watching an insect trying to bite through glass. There's effort, there's intent, but there's no penetration. And this cold, calculated detachment destabilizes far more effectively than any verbal response ever could. Ever notice how people who hold genuine authority rarely explain themselves? Because explanation is justification, and anyone who needs to justify has already admitted, even silently, they're on the defensive. Provocation only works when you accept the invitation to enter the ring. When you stay outside, watching, you're not running. You're choosing not to feed. A game designed specifically to drain you. If this speaks to something you've experienced, it might be worth staying for what comes next. How does the mind build emotional armor without suppressing anything? Here's the secret nobody mentions. You don't need to suffocate emotions to maintain control. You need distance between the stimulus and your identity. It's not about not feeling. It's about not merging with what you feel. And that changes everything. When someone attacks you verbally, the first reaction is personal. You feel like the attack is against who you are. But what if it wasn't? What if it was just a tactical attempt at destabilization, and you simply happened to be in the path? This shift in perspective transforms the entire dynamic. Suddenly, you're no longer the target. You're just the observer of a poorly executed strategy. Think of a mirror. When someone screams at a mirror, what happens? The mirror reflects, but doesn't absorb, doesn't get marked, doesn't carry anything forward. And you can function this way too, not through indifference, but through clarity. You recognize hostile energy, but don't internalize it. It simply passes through, like wind moving through a screen. This isn't passivity, it's strategy. Passivity is accepting the hit and doing nothing because you don't know what else to do. Strategic detachment is seeing the hit coming, analyzing the intent behind it, and consciously deciding it's not worth the energy expenditure. It's a choice, not a weakness. And conscious choices always carry more power than automatic reactions. Now, the mental trick. When you separate provocation from your identity, you can do something rare. Observe the situation from outside yourself. As if watching a movie scene, you see the person trying to destabilize you. See the technique being deployed. See exactly where they want you to bite the bait. And by seeing all this, you gain time. Time to breathe. Time to avoid the emotional trap set specifically to make you lose control. And there's more. This detachment isn't coldness. It's lucidity. Coldness is cutting emotion because you fear it. Lucidity is feeling, agonizing, but not letting it dictate your actions. It's the difference between being controlled and being conscious. And that difference, in the real world, is the line separating those who lead from those who follow without question. Drop a comment if this has ever clicked for you. Why do people who speak less always seem to know more? Silence carries weight, always has. But not just any silence. There's the silence of fear, of embarrassment, of insecurity, and then there's the silence of deliberate restraint. The difference? Intention. When you choose not to speak, people sense it. They perceive something happening behind your eyes, some calculation they can't decode, and that generates involuntary respect. Most people's problem is they fill space with words, with justifications, with nervousness disguised as eloquence. They think speaking more will convince more, but the effect is opposite. Every extra word dilutes the message's power. Every unnecessary explanation reads as defense. And defense, even when well articulated, smells like weakness. Now contrast that with someone who speaks rarely, but when they do, every word has density. They don't waste syllables. Don't over-explain. Don't try to prove anything. And precisely because of this, everything they say seems important, seems considered, seems final. There's no room for debate, because there's no excess, only essence. Provocateurs hate silence, because silence doesn't provide ammunition. They cast the bait expecting you to bite, expecting you to defend yourself, explain yourself, expose yourself. But when you simply look, breathe, and say nothing, the bait hangs in the air, and they're left holding it, not knowing what to do. They start doubting their own strategy. Did they even land? Did you not care? Are they looking ridiculous? And while they're lost in this internal confusion, you remain whole. Your posture hasn't shifted. Your gaze hasn't wavered. Your breathing stays controlled. And this conscious immobility communicates for more than any verbal response could. It communicates you're not easily moved. That not just any provocation will displace you from your center. And that's real authority. There's an ancient technique used in high-level interrogations and negotiations. Let silence carry weight. Don't respond immediately. Let tension build until the other person starts filling the void. And when they fill it, they reveal themselves. They show insecurity, urgency, desperation. Everything you need to know about their position's fragility, delivered for free. If this content is helping you, hit that like. It helps the channel continue. How does your body speak when your mouth stays shut? You might not say a word, but your body is screaming. The question is, what's it saying? Because real control isn't just about words. It's about every micro-expression, every posture adjustment, every involuntary movement that betrays what you're actually feeling. And those who know how to read these signals have brutal advantage. When someone provokes you and you feel adrenaline spike, your body responds. Muscles tense, jaw locks, breathing shallows, eye contact either too intense or darting away too quickly. All of this is language, and the person who provoked you is reading. They're checking if they succeeded. They're measuring impact. If you don't control these reactions, you're handing them victory without realizing it. But there's the flip side. The body that stays calm under pressure, shoulders relaxed, breathing deep and measured, eye contact direct but not aggressive, posture open yet firm. This body says, you don't move me, you don't affect me, you have no power here, and that destabilizes. Because provocation only works when it generates reaction. When it generates nothing visible, the provocateur loses reference. No feedback, no fuel. Here's the brutal detail. You don't need to speak to win. You just need to not demonstrate. And not demonstrating isn't faking indifference. It's genuinely not being affected. It's having worked your internal control so thoroughly that provocation hits but doesn't echo. Like sound in a room with no walls to reflect it. It enters but doesn't bounce back. Eye contact is power too. Not that aggressive confrontation stare, but the gaze of someone comfortable with their own presence. Someone who doesn't need to prove anything because they already know. And this gaze, when combined with silence, creates something almost uncomfortable for the other person. Because they expect reaction, expect defense, expect conflict, and you're there, present, but unshakable. It breaks their mental script. There's an interesting behavioral pattern. Insecure people gesture excessively when confronted. They fill space with movement, trying to compensate for lack of substance. Those with control move less, because they don't need to compensate for anything. Every gesture is deliberate. Every movement has purpose. There's no energy waste. And this economy of movement reads as confidence, as contained force, as potential threat, even when you have zero intention of attacking. What if your calm was there wound? Here's the final truth few admit. Your emotional stability exposes others' fragility. When you don't react, don't shake, don't enter the game, you create a mirror. And in that mirror, whoever provoked you sees themselves. And what they see isn't pretty. People who provoke are always searching for something. Validation, attention, confirmation they still have some power over their environment. And when you deny them this, something inside them cracks. Because if you don't care, if you don't move, what does that say about their relevance? About the strength of their attack? About their desperate attempt to knock you off axis? And that's when the strange phenomenon happens. The calmer you stay, the more agitated they become. They start escalating. Provocation becomes insult. Insult becomes accusation. Accusation becomes desperation disguised as anger. And all because you simply didn't give them what they expected. Emotional reaction. You didn't play. And whoever doesn't play can't lose. But there's an internal side to this. Because maintaining calm under fire isn't just social strategy. It's training. It's discipline. It's having worked your automatic responses so thoroughly they stop being automatic. It's having built an internal space so solid that external provocations can't penetrate. And this doesn't happen overnight. It's construction. It's repetition. It's conscious choice, repeated 1,000 times, until it becomes instinct. Think of water. Water doesn't fight, doesn't resist, simply flows. And in flowing, it moves around, passes through, transforms. That's the strength of the unflappable. It's not rigidity, it's flexibility with a solid core. It's the capacity to absorb impact without breaking, to feel pressure without collapsing, to recognize attack without internalizing the wound. And in the end, what remains? You, whole. The other person, exhausted. They spent energy trying to move you. You spent energy maintaining center, but the outcome is completely different. They finish empty, you finish strong. And this brutal difference in outcome is what separates those who merely react from those who truly dominate their own psychological space. If this video opened your mind, subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming. Comment below, which part hit you hardest?